Sir, do you think that countries are more willing now, because it's a huge regional conflict as well in that part of the world, that countries are more willing to accept civilian casualties? It seems to be happening in Afghanistan as well. There seems to be more civilian casualties happening there. Can you comment on that? Whether you think that we're becoming thick-skinned?
I would love Judy Rebick to address that.
I think there's two things. One is it's racism. You know, where we do not value the lives of Arabs and Muslims in the same way as we value the lives of white people. It's that simple. Our culture does not value their lives. We don't even get reports on how many killings there are. We do from Gaza because the Palestinians are better organized, and so they get the figures out. But in Afghanistan and Iraq, we don't get reports. You have to go on the internet and find it out for yourself about how many people are killed. Just imagine for a moment that someone just started dropping bombs here. It's almost 11 o'clock. That's what time the Israelis started bombing Gaza, when children were in school, when people were at work, the time to inflict maximum damage on civilians. Just imagine in this downtown part of Toronto that bombs started dropping, that the US or somebody started dropping bombs on us. Imagine, well, we don't even have to imagine because we remember. And the outcry there would be from the killings. Why isn't there the same international outcry about this? Why do we get asked, what about the rockets? You know, there was one person killed in Israel before Israel started bombing. Now there's 5. This bombing does nothing to stop civilian deaths in Israel. It provokes it more. So what is it about? You see, why aren't more people asking those questions? What is this bombing about? It never stops the civilian killing in Israel. It makes groups like Hamas stronger, not weaker. If the Hamas election had been accepted, then Hamas would have been much more mainstream in the way that it worked. But instead, they forced them into extreme action. That's how I see it. And I think there's not enough questions being asked. And I think you're right that it's because we don't value the lives of the Palestinians in the same way as we value the lives of people here in Canada. And that has to stop. We have to be our brother and our sister's keeper. We have to understand we live in a global society. Here we have 2 young women, one of whom is a 3rd-generation Palestinian and 2nd generation, right? 2nd generation. This is the world we live in now. We live together in our city, and we have to live together in our world, and that means we have to speak out about this massacre that's happening against the government of Israel for peace in the Middle East. It has to happen. It has to stop.
Judy, you touched on some of the difficulties of speaking out and being a Jewish woman and the reaction within the Jewish community. How difficult is it to have a dissenting view within the Jewish community, and what are the consequences that you personally face for having your views?
Well, I personally, the consequences I personally faced, I've faced over the years, but you know, like my name on a website called Self-Hating Jews with blood dripping from it whenever I speak out, you know? Well, you know, it's funny, like it's ridiculous, but still, you know, it's a little scary. And, but, you know, I'm not a practicing Jew. I don't live in the Jewish community. I live, you know, I have my own, and I'm a dissident. I've always been, you know, I'm dissident. I've always been speaking out. But I have friends and relatives who are critical of Israel, who go to synagogue, who live in the Jewish community, who are afraid to speak out because they'll be shunned, they'll be attacked. And as soon as you speak out as a Jew or as a non-Jew who's spoken out for the first time against Israel, you're attacked. A friend of mine just posted a blog in which he raised questions about what Israel was doing. He never spoke out about it before. He's in a community, in the spiritual activist community, and he got attacked immediately, right? Because people are so well organized. And so I think that part of the problem on this issue is that it's been so polarized for so long that people are afraid to speak out if they don't know the whole history of the region and they can't defend every point. And what I'm saying now is that the debate about the Middle East is one thing, you know, and okay, lots of people feel they don't know enough to speak out. But when a powerful government is slaughtering civilians, this is a simple moral question. It has to stop. It has to stop. Every person of goodwill says it has to stop. There's no justification for it, period, whatever your position is. And you know, if I'm going to suffer consequences, I'll suffer some hateful emails and maybe a couple of death threats, that's possible. But that's nothing compared to what the people of Palestine are suffering, nothing. And so if we can speak out now, if we can get our, I'm not optimistic about the government, but let's say our university presidents to speak out, people, prominent people who haven't spoken out before to speak out, maybe we can make a difference and stop Israel. They are dependent on support from the outside. And so we have to turn around public opinion and get people to stand up on this. It's never been clearer, in my view.
Can you just talk about tomorrow? How many are you expecting? Any speakers of interest, just so people can know what to expect in Dundas Square?
Yeah, absolutely. We've gotten... Yes, we've received tremendous support for the rally happening on Saturday. Many labor groups will be represented, Canadian Union of Public Employees, one of the first unions to come out with a boycott resolution against Israel. Its President Sid Ryan is going to be there speaking. Representatives from Steelworkers Union will also be there. Many faith groups, a lot of our anti-Zionist Jewish supporters will be there. We're not good at the number estimation game. We'll leave that to the media. But there's a lot of anger in the Palestinian community. We've been mobilizing and working really hard. All our supporters will be out there with us to send a very clear message to the Harper government that they need to stop their unconditional support for Israel when it is slaughtering innocent civilians in the Gaza Strip.
How are you getting the word out? Do you have a Facebook group, or do you have...
We have everything possible you can think of. We have a Facebook group. We're making placards and banners at Palestine House today. We've gone to every mosque prayer going on this Friday. People are leafleting as we speak. We have attended every church. We're still a little low on the synagogues, but those that are anti-Zionist synagogues, we're definitely going to be leafleting outside. We've been postering at the universities. The word is certainly out in the city, and there's enough anger that every single member of the community is out there mobilizing to get the largest number of people on the streets.
Any other question? Well, as I said, if you want to talk to expert, we have here Sheila Kebria from Islamic Relief Organization. They are sending aid and food and medical supplies to Palestine and Gaza. She can talk about that. We have also here an organization called the Health Professional Against the Siege of Gaza. We have an expert on children trauma, so you can talk to her about the situation of children and the situation of hospitals there. We have Adam Hani from Palestine House, who also can talk about the plight of the children. Khalid Muammar from the Canadian Arab Federation, and Farid Ayad.
Mentioned that you want the government to match.
Yes, and actually one of the calls we want to send out, we want the government of Canada, like we do as a Canadian, when there is a humanitarian disaster, to match the fund raised by all charitable organizations and aid and relief fund group. So we want our government to step up to the plate and help out with matching the fund. So thank you very much all for coming, and thank you to the panelists for being here. Thanks.